Darling, you have just begun. By Dancing Lassie. Chapter 7. Geralt has heard this scream only once before, just over 13 years ago, at a betrothal feast. It's ear-splitting, hemorrhage-inducing, and incredibly powerful. His brain feels like it's trying to liquefy and leak out of his ears. There is only one person at the keep able to produce a scream like this. Jaskier has fallen off the bed and, failing to stand, is crawling painfully slowly towards the door. Geralt forces himself to stumble out of the bed, the pressure of the screen almost forcing him to his knees. He hauls Jaskier to his feet, and once he has the bart upright, they battle their way into the corridor. Ciri's room is 2 doors down from their own, and only jagged splinters remain of the heavy wooden door that previously barred the entrance. Eskel and Vesemir can be seen shakily emerging from their own rooms, while the sound of doors being wrenched open behind Geralt signals the emergence of Lambert and Cohen. But it's Jaskier who reaches Ciri's doorway first and throws himself bodily inside. Tears are trickling down his cheeks with the effort required to stay standing, but he's 2 steps ahead of his witcher, who is struggling behind him. Blood is beginning to drip from Geralt's nose, and he can see the red trails dripping down the river god's face. Ciri lies asleep in her bed, trapped under a mass of blankets and furs that weigh her down, kicking and thrashing and screaming. She does not wake to Jaskier's hoarse cries of her name. He falls next to her bed and grasps her by the shoulders, hauling her upright and shaking her roughly until her eyes snap open and fix upon him. The screaming stops. There is none of the warmth in those eyes that Ciri usually displays when looking at Jaskier. They are cold, hard chips of emerald. Her lips curl in a mocking sneer. "You've taken on a new form, Pancratz." Geralt shudders. The voice is harsh, inhuman. This is not Ciri speaking to them. He listens in sick fascination as the voice continues, poisonous words spewing from Ciri's mouth. "I remember watching you writhe and scream when they poisoned your waters. You begged me to release you from your torment and end your suffering. Where was your courage then, Pancratz?" Jaskier's mouth rumbles. "I am not the Pancratz to whom you refer," he tells the voice coldly. "Yes, you are, little river god. You are the Pancratz. You are the river. All it is and all it was. You may not remember me, little godling, but I remember you. I can see you in whatever form you manifest. It is all the same to me."
"Who are you? What are you doing in my daughter?"
Jaskier asks furiously, but the voice ignores him. "How does it feel to wear the rounded ears of your enemies, Oathbreaker? I was there when you went willingly into the river. Before the magic of your sacrifice brought power to its waters, you swore to rid the land of the humid vermin invading your home. You failed, Oathbreaker. They poisoned you, and your former people lost their glorious war. Now you have returned as one of those you hated. Now you protect this human princess." Before Geralt's eyes, Jaskier shifts. The tops of his ears become pointed. His hair lightens to a white blonde and grows until it hangs poker straight just above his shoulders. His face lengthens and becomes more angular, while his torso narrows to become even leaner. The only memorable feature remaining is his eyes, which remain the blue of his river on a sunny day. Geralt's seen this elf before. Only once, and very briefly, when submerged in Jaskier's river. He'd seen a flash of this figure overlay Jaskier's usual image just for a moment. The first god of the Pancratz.
"Leave the girl be! I command you!"
Even his voice is different, deeper and with different inflections and rhythms. "You have changed your tune, Oathbreaker. You would have cut her down like a diseased dog on the street when you were alive."
"Perhaps so. But I'm not who I once was. Now, release her!"
Ciri slumps, going limp in Pankratz's grasp, and falls calmly asleep once more. Pancratz stands, and only now does Geralt realize neither he nor Jaskier had grabbed any clothes when they forced themselves out of the room. Both he and the river god are naked, and while the god is not shivering, Geralt is beginning to. Eskel cautiously enters the room, and, never taking his eyes off Pancratz, he grabs a spare blanket from the chair by the door and drapes it over Geralt's shoulders.
"Her charge is very special."
Pancratz gives Geralt a warm, loving smile. It is Jaskier's smile, but on someone else's face. It makes the Witcher intensely uncomfortable.
"Where is Jaskier?"
he demands.
"He's safe In here.
The elven man taps a long finger to his temple.
I had to force him back so that I could help the girl. But you're dead. A river can never truly die while its waters continue to run. When you next see her, please give Mama my love.
Pancratz lets out a full-body shudder and his features morph back into Jaskar's. The bard stumbles forward on his newly regained legs and Geralt lunges forward to catch him. Confused eyes search his face.
Geralt, what happened?
Jaskar's eyes widen.
Ciri!
He whirls back round towards the princess, but the young girl is breathing deeply in a peaceful sleep. Jasker spins back, looking deeply confused and still wobbly on his legs.
Come on.
Geralt whispers urgently, tugging him to his chest so they're both wrapped up in the blanket.
Let's get dressed and then we'll go and get a hot drink.
He catches Cohen's eye over Jaskar's head, and the other Witcher nods understandingly and grabs Lambert by the arm and ushers the others away. When they enter their room, Jasker sinks down onto their bed, looking lost.
Geralt, what happened to me? That thing was speaking through Ciri and then everything went fuzzy.
Geralt's tugging on clothes, trying not to look at Jasker as he struggles to decide whether he should say anything to him about Pancratz. He doesn't want to worry Jasker, not when he's going to be worrying more than enough about Ciri.
Geralt!
Jasker sounds terrified. The Witcher has taken too long to respond.
You changed into Pancratz, the first one.
But he's dead! Geralt shrugs, unsure of what to say. He gathers up Jaskar's trousers and kneels by the bed to tug his legs through them and up his hips.
Could it?
He wonders how he should phrase this and buys himself some time by pulling Jaskar's shirt down over his head and helping him battle with the sleeves. Geralt looks wistfully at the marks he'd left on Jaskar's pale skin, now covered up and hidden from view. It had turned into such a good evening. Jasker had told him he loved him. Geralt had been able to say it back.
Is it possible a fragment of him remains? Almost like a shadow. I don't know.
Jasker whispers, sounding very young and very frightened.
No one talks about the dead river gods.
His fingers pluck nervously at his clothes, and Geralt grabs Jaskar's lute and places it carefully into the god's hands. Plucking on the strings always helps calm Jasker down.
We should go and join the others. We need to talk about Ciri.
He grabs one of Jaskar's hands, curling their fingers together, and leads the god still clutching his lute down to the kitchens. Whatever the others have been discussing before their arrival is silenced the moment they hear Jasker and Geralt's footsteps. 2 mugs of Vesemir's homegrown mint tea are waiting for them.
What the fuck was that?
You can always trust Lambert to cut straight to the point during an awkward moment.
Ciri's mother, Princess Pavetta, had similar powers. It seems the daughter has inhabited them.
Jasker ignores his drink, plucking distractedly on his lute in a discordant manner.
She mentioned that they'd emerged during her escape from Cintra, but they've never appeared while she's been with me. This sort of thing is something we should have been told about before she made the home keep shake.
Eskel growls at the bard, who ignores him, still focused on his lute. Geralt glares at his brother, but Eskel brushes it off with a roll of his shoulder.
Is to let us know.
Lambert interjects, which surprises Geralt. Lambert has been making snide comments about Jasker ever since he arrived.
I don't get it,
Cohen interjects.
If she's magic, how come she can't manage any of the sides? I've tried teaching her Arn plenty of times, but she can't manage a single puff of air.
He sees Jasker's stern glance and realizes that trying to teach Ciri the Witcher signs was absolutely something he should have run past her father first.
He glances down guiltily. Perhaps her magic requires more finesse than the signs. They are very rudimentary.
Vesemir suggests, stroking his chin thoughtfully.
Jasker, could you teach her magic?
The bard shakes his head wearily, setting his lute aside and leaning into Geralt's side. The Witcher wraps an arm around him and presses a kiss to the top of his head.
My magic is connected to my river and the worship I receive. Ciri's magic is different. It'd be like teaching her to play the lute by using the bagpipes.
Jasker grabs the tea, takes a sip, and pulls a face.
Any chance we have something stronger?
I'll get the ale,
Cohen agrees readily.
So we need a mage then?
Eskel asks. Jasker stiffens and Geralt is suddenly hit with a flash of pain right in the shoulder. He tries not to retch as the metallic taste and smell of blood fills his senses.
No.
He grinds out through gritted teeth before Jasker can raise his own objections.
I don't trust them. I know some trustworthy ones. Well, one. Triss Marigold is decent for a sorceress.
Eskel offers.
I said no. Geralt snarls. He feels sick, and he's not sure how much of that is due to Yaskar's feelings leaking through their bond, and how much is due to his own memories. Yasker almost dead in his arms, vomiting black bile before vanishing into the river and away from Geralt. No sorceresses, Yasker agrees firmly. He reaches a trembling hand across the table to grab an ale that Cohen has just set down. We've just agreed that none of us here have the skills required to help her control her magic, Eskel protests. We need a mage. He's scurrying up, readying himself for a fight, and Geralt is prepared to give him one. Eskel may be his favorite brother, but he does not understand the torment Geralt underwent when he wandered for months, unsure if he'd ever see Yasker again. Unsure if he was even alive. Looking back, Geralt can admit he was already in love with Yasker back then, though not even torture would have got him to admit it. He will do anything to protect Yasker from another sorceress. Triss, from the brief time he'd spent with her, seemed nice, lovely even. But how would that change when faced with the temptation of Yasker and his power? He will not risk it, and he will not have Yasker feel uncomfortable living here.
There are some methods we can try before we have to seriously consider a mage. Vesemir intervenes. Meditation techniques and such. That's with your permission, of course.
He looks to Yasker, the lesson they all received earlier, well remembered. Yasker nods his agreement. Fine, Eskel concedes, then squints suspiciously at the river god. So what the hell happened to you? To Geralt's shock, Eskel winces slightly as someone kicks him under the table. But it wasn't him or Yasker, and Cohen and Vesemir are seated too far away from Eskel to reach. Which means it must be Lambert. When has Lambert ever exercised diplomacy? Geralt is missing something. That was my dead brother, in a manner of speaking. More accurately, he's a dead version of me. Yasker drains his ale and swings his lute back around in front of him, playing a slightly mournful tune.
How so? Vesemir has actually fished a piece of parchment out of his jerkin and is searching his pockets for a stick of charcoal.
Geralt has never seen his mentor behaving so shamelessly. Even Eskel is looking embarrassed on the older Witcher's behalf. Yasker shrugs, pausing to tune one of the strings. There was a god of the Pancrats before me. He fought against humans during the initial wars for territory, so they poisoned him. Then my grandfather drowned me in a river several hundreds of years later, and I became the new Pancrats in his place. I guess the two of us are not as separate as I thought. He's never made his presence known before, not to my knowledge. It's said with a forced casualness that fools no one. Yasker is upset by this development and does not wish to be questioned on it further. Unfortunately, Vesemir is too busy looking down at his notes to pick up on the subtleties of Yasker's expression.
Fascinating. Has this happened to other Arisa? Are there others like you who are the new gods of the river with a previously deceased god? I wonder if it's like a kind of subconscious collective memory. Even though you weren't born until much later, the fact that your river has been around so long may give you memories to the past spanning farther back than your actual existence. Perhaps we could test it late, old man, Lambert complains. Some of us would like to get back to bed before sunrise.
Yeah, Coleman agrees. If Ciri's still up for it, then I'm supposed to be running drills with her tomorrow morning. I'm going to head to bed. Same. Geralt grunts and takes the opportunity to haul Yasker to his feet and chivvy him out of the kitchen. Good night. He calls back over his shoulder. He gets Yasker back to their room, and they sag together against the door in relief and exhaustion. Thank you. Yasker leans against him and tucks his head into the gap between Geralt's shoulder and chin. What for? For coming to my defense when the others wanted to get a mage up here. We're not suggesting anything. I wouldn't. Geralt vows. I wouldn't do that to you. Still, Yasker shifts his head to press a kiss to Geralt's willing lips. I appreciate it anyway. I'm sorry about Eskel. Geralt pauses briefly. Then Vesemir. He feels compelled to add. I'll just save time and apologize for everyone here. Yasker smirks. Even Ciri? We've got months trapped in this keep together. I'm sure she'll find some way to irritate you by the end. No doubt. I've told her she's got to attend lessons with me as well now. Wait until I try and explain the tax systems of various countries to her. I'm pretty sure that's classed as a form of torture. Geralt tells him glad he's not required to take these lessons. As far as he's aware, as a witcher, he's tax exempt. She's going to need to consider such things. She wants to retake Cintra. Yasker confides in a hollow voice, and dread begins creeping into Geralt's eye. He may be teaching her how to fight and how to defend herself against a small group of armed opponents, but taking back a country is something else. That requires war. He doesn't want Ciri on a battlefield in the midst of thousands of bodies, all with swords and hacking at each other. He wants her safe.
But Cintra is her birthright. Does he have the right to deny her the attempt to take it back?
My thoughts exactly.
Jaskier smiles ruefully, inspecting Geralt's agonized expression. He gathers Jaskier closer to him, clinging on as he fears for the future.
We'll help her,
he promises Jaskier.
If that is what she wants, then we'll make sure she lives to be the best queen Cintra's ever seen. More valiant than Calanthe. Wiser, too.
Jaskier agrees.
More merciful, as well. She'll be magnificent.
They stay leaning at the door for a little while longer until the cold seeps from the stones and into their bones. They burrow under the bed covers together, wrapped in each other's arms.
Geralt,
Jaskier murmurs sleepily.
you don't need to apologize for your family. They're not too bad, I suppose. Even Vesemir and Askel.
Geralt has to check.
Vesemir's enthusiastic. It's a little tiring at times, but he's been welcoming. And Askel loves you very much. I can appreciate that he wants you to be safe. We're the same in that regard. He'll come round eventually,
Geralt promises.
Jaskier is already half asleep. Of course he will. I'm a delight.